Alright guys, Tactical here, and there it is. 5v5 has been officially confirmed for the upcoming 2018-2019 season, and a whole host of other things to go along with it. So today I'm going to break down everything, sprinkle a bit of opinion in here and there, but mostly it's going to be factual, and I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Rostermania is going to kick off in full force once again, so don't forget to subscribe for more updates, and maybe some more in-depth opinion videos on these changes. So let's start with the big one. 5v5 is official for competitive play this year, a drastic change, probably the most drastic change we've ever seen in Call of Duty. It's been 4v4 for like 10 years, and snap your fingers and it's gone. Treyarch's reasoning is to more closely align the competitive and casual play, which sounds good in theory, but we'll have to see how it plays out. I'm not a fan of 5v5, I made a video explaining that if you guys are interested. The second thing they talk about is an increase to the prize pool. It's now at $6 million, the largest in Call of Duty Esports history. Now, people are making a big deal out of this. I don't really see why it's that much of an issue. You know, the pros want to win regardless of the money, but looking at it objectively, World War II was 4.2 million prize pool. Now it's 5v5, so increase that prize pool by 25% to match it, and you get like a 5.25 million. So we're only like 750,000 higher than what last year would have been if you convert for 5v5. So this is nothing to write home about. Aches wasn't very happy about this. He realised that it's basically no increase at all. Also, he mentions crowdfunding, which is something that happens in League of Legends and Dota especially, where people who buy in-game items, part of the money goes towards the prize pool for the competitive play. Also, what Complexity owner Jason Lake was talking about is that with 5v5, it's going to cost organisations a lot more. They're going to need some sort of extra cash. Like in CSGO, you get sticker money. People who buy the stickers of the orgs and the players, like what you could have as camos in Call of Duty, the organisation will get a cut of that. It's definitely a surprise that they go down the route of 5v5 to attract casual fans rather than doing very mundane things such as team camouflages, item loot drops in game, and crowdfunding to maybe have the same if not more impact. Now the third change is a really good one. Region restrictions have been removed from all LAN events. In World War II season, your pro points were region locked, so if you wanted to move to a North American team, it was difficult, and also you lost all your pro points, so it didn't really happen. But this season we're definitely going to see international teams. The players must have known about this for a while because Den's already announced he was searching for international options, and it's almost a known fact that Splice are going to be going for an international team to go around Jerd. Now the full rule set for the upcoming season hasn't been announced yet, will be revealed at the start of online competition, which is shortly after release, so about a month's time we'll probably know about that. After I go through this article, there's a really interesting piece on Treyarch's website that talks more in depth about how they're going to align the casual and competitive scene, so stick around to the end of the video. So the first event, CWL Las Vegas, December 7th through 9th. This is going to be a very traditional event, what we're used to seeing in Call of Duty. The next ones going forward are going to be very different, which I think a lot of people aren't talking about. So this is a multi-stage event. You've got your open bracket, you've got your pool play, your championship bracket. Now the qualification for pool play has had some controversy. So the first 12 pool play spots will be grandfathered in based on the top 12 teams from CWL Pro League Stage 2. Now Aches wasn't very happy about this. He tweeted here, why would they use Stage 2 and not Champs? Obviously because he won Champs, he's going to be biased in that sense. Literally saved Optic. Well, yes, that's true, but when you look at it kind of objectively, Optic won a top 24 team at that event. They were definitely better than that. They went 2-1 in pools but went out. The champ system is not that good, so it makes sense to qualify teams based on a longer period of time. Now, whichever way this goes, it's going to screw over some teams. Let's look at Stage 2. So the top 12 teams that are qualified: TK, Rise, Red Reserve, E United, FaZe, Unilad, Echo Fox, Optic, Evil Geniuses, Luminosity, Team Envy, and Complexity. The teams that will miss out: Splice, Mindfreak, Epsilon, Tative, Mines, and also teams that will miss out more than likely are teams that are not in the Pro League. I'll talk about a caveat in a second. Team Vitality and Lightning Pandas, even Ghost Gaming, they come top 12 at Champs, but yeah, because they're not in the Pro League, there's no chance of auto qualification. So it's definitely going to mess some people up, but that's the nature of any system. Now, interestingly, Stage 2 teams must retain 3 of the 4 players from their roster. Obviously, it's going 5v5, so 60% of their roster in order to qualify, but this probably won't affect a lot of the top teams. People have been saying that, wow, you know, Optic are going to have to keep methods now to qualify, but it's not true, because if a team doesn't retain the majority of its roster, it gets replaced by teams with the highest amount of combined pro points. So say Optic have TJ, Dashi, Scump, Crim6, and they bring back Karma, say, for methods. They've only got 2/5 of their Stage 2 roster in Scump and Crim6, but the combined pro points of that team will easily be enough to get into the top 12 teams in pro points, especially considering it's 5v5. That's a lot more players. It's much easier to get as a top 12 team in 5v5 than it was in 4v4, so they'll make it regardless. So I think for a lot of the top teams targeting top talent, this restriction won't matter too much. So the final pool play teams will be determined by a relegation style play-in. So the next 8 teams in Pro Points after the top 12 will qualify into this tournament. They play a double elimination bracket to get into pool play. Now we'll talk about in a second how important getting pool play is in this event. This may cause some complications for some teams. Someone like Mindfreak, who's picked up this young guy in Luca, who doesn't have any Pro Points from last year. They've got Shox and Fighter with decent Pro Points, but surely they're going to have to bring back Buzzo in order to get enough Pro Points to qualify for this tournament. Maybe they even have questions about bringing in Excite from Taboo, because he doesn't have that many Pro Points. Maybe they have to bring in a Tainted Minds player in order to make sure they've got enough Pro Points to try and get them into pool play. So the top 4 teams in this tournament will get into pools to join the other 12, so that's 16 in pools. 4 losing teams will be placed in open. So this is the same format as previous tournaments. The top 4 teams in open join the pool play teams. You have the typical Saturdays where the best teams are beating up on the lower tier ones. So this is why it's so important to get pool play for Vegas. The top 4 finishes will automatically qualify for the Pro League, but teams placing 5th through 32nd will fight for the remaining 12 Pro League spots, that's 24 down to 12, at a qualification event in January, which will probably be a relegation style double elimination, but we haven't got those details yet. If you don't place top 32 at Vegas, as an organisation, your year is over. That's why it's so important to get in pools, because we already know that the first event can be very fluky, the rule set's not going to be how it is every single year. Usually the team that wins the first event isn't the best team a few months down the line. Vegas will probably be fluky like the previous first tournaments we've seen, but if you make top 32, and especially in a 5v5 setting, top 32 should be achievable, and if you can do that, you have a chance for a Pro League. So it's not the worst format in the world, but open bracket is going to be a gauntlet. Now the Pro League's changing this year. It's still going to be 2 divisions of 8 teams, but it's no longer a 2-stage season. You don't have stage 1, stage 2, one whole stage with 12 weeks of play. Last season, each stage was 8 weeks long, but now a combined stage is only 12 weeks long. You also have interdivisional play. They don't go into details on this. Maybe the interdivisional play will be in the week preceding a CWL event, so all the teams are there at the same time. Because otherwise, if interdivisional play is going on quite often, why don't you just have a full-fledged league? This is another good change. Teams will be awarded a prize bonus for each match win throughout the season, which means that even after a team is relegated, it still makes sense to push on for the victory because you know there's money on the line. There's also going to be roster change periods with an S throughout the season. Now, usually stage 1, then you can change your rosters, stage 2, and then champs, basically. So this time there's going to be more roster change periods, which means more juicy Rostermania for us. It doesn't say how many there'll be. Maybe there'll be 2 throughout the entire season, maybe 3, who knows. And the matches are going to be Monday through Thursday. So previously it was Tuesday through Thursday. So I guess that makes up for a shortened schedule of 12 weeks if we have more matches every week. Now, this is where things really change and where we really start to see a push from Activision towards an Overwatch League style system. It's almost certain that Call of Duty will be franchised next year. I might make a video on franchising on its own. A quick breakdown of it is that organizations buy into the league, so their spot cannot be revoked after the start of the season, and then they can pick up players from elsewhere. But the organizations themselves are bought in and they stay in there, kind of similar to what the NFL is, I think. So one whole season means there's no relegation. If you qualify as an organization at the start of the year in January, your org is set in stone for the entire rest of the season. Now that means amateur players that don't make it into the league have a very hard time because they can never qualify for the league with their team unless they get picked up by a Pro League team, or they just have to try and wait all the way to champs. Now things really kick off here. Dedicated circuit for amateur players, beginning with the second open LAN event, now open in inverted commas, and continuing through each open event thereafter. Amateur teams will compete in a double elimination open bracket for their own prize pool. Amateur circuit tournaments will be held at the same time as the CWL Pro League Cup, and its final will take place on the main stage of that event. After Vegas, each other open event, the pools will just be the 16 Pro League teams, and all the amateur open bracket teams will never have a chance to win the actual event. They will go into their own open bracket and amateur circuit to try and win their own prize pool, which I think is separate from the 6 million for the Pro League. Now this is interesting. It gives an opportunity for amateur players to show their worth and get picked up and scouted by the Pro League teams, but it's also going to cause a hell of a lot of stat padding. There's no incentive for you and your teammates to be the best team you can. You have to show yourself as the best individual on that team. I don't like the sound of it, maybe I'll do a more in-depth video on this topic. Parasite says here as well, one of the key attractions for players competing at tournaments is like, wow, if I get through Open, I'll play against the pro teams, maybe I'll be able to beat them. Maybe I'll even win the damn thing. But at the other Open events after Vegas, there's no opportunity for the amateur players to play against the pro teams. So I haven't completely made up my mind yet, but those are some initial thoughts. Also, an interesting point is right here. Each of the 16 Pro League teams must designate one player from the amateur circuit as a substitute. So if one player can't make it for whatever reason, they can sub in from the amateur circuit in the Pro League. I'm not sure whether in future years it's going to be more of an Overwatch League system where you can actually substitute in players mid-match to counter your opponent and suit different game modes, but that's something to consider. Now we have the national qualifiers. This year we had the national circuit, which I didn't like as a system, and it's being revamped. Oh yeah. In each national qualifier, 16 teams will compete in an online tournament to win travel and accommodation to compete at a future CWL LAN event. Once they get there, they won't have a chance to win. They'll just be playing in the open bracket for their own prize. They'll take place in the original national circuit locations, Australia and New Zealand as one region, Canada, France and Belgium as its own region, Italy, Germany and Netherlands, Spain and Portugal, United Kingdom and Ireland, United States. So the next sentence is quite important. It says each qualifier will be country and region locked, requiring players from respective countries and regions to compete, which sounds like all 5 players have got to be from said region. But thanks to Amelia Rose on Twitter, she got in contact with League Ops and they confirmed that only 3 of the 5 members will be required. So it's just like last season. Instead of having an 8-team league for the national circuit like we had this season, you have a 16-team qualifier where the best teams go on. I'm guessing the more stacked regions will have more qualification spots from the bracket. But this system will still fall into the trap that we had last year, where players from the more stacked regions will be moving abroad to try and get an easier run of things. So it's probably not great for competition as a whole, but at least it's giving opportunities for international players to attend events. Now, online competition returns, CWL ladders and weekly pro points will begin after launch, and the Pro League will be based more on LAN results. And that's one thing I like about the LAN qualifier from the top 32 teams at Vegas, is that previously you could qualify for the Pro League based on pro points that you'd get by online seedings, but now it's definitely more fair. Now, because there's only one long stage, the playoffs are now called the CWL Finals. The playoffs is its own dedicated event featuring the best teams in the world for the prize pool and trophy. So this is only going to be the normal 8-team playoffs you're going to see, but the top amateur circuit teams will also compete in their playoff event, which is going to be at the CWL Finals as well. Hasn't been announced where it is or anything like that. This is also going to be the last chance qualifier for the Call of Duty Championships. The top 8 teams from the Pro League are going to be there, and all the amateur teams are competing to try and make it to CoD Champs. And these events are going to be one after another, so the 2 biggest events of the year are back to back. CoD Champs will feature the 16 Pro League teams and the top 16 teams from the amateur circuit as we've seen before. A real big and I think negative change that wasn't featured on this post is at the bottom here. 6 spectator events, including CWL Finals and the CWL Championship. So after Vegas, there are 3 more open style events that aren't even really opens. They're just invitationals for the Pro League teams, and all the open bracket teams just have to go through and win their own prize. Then the playoffs and the World Championship are after that. So there's only 4 open style events. Will there even be room for one of these events to be in Europe? It seems more and more like the Call of Duty World League is becoming more North American centric by the day. I don't know if MLG will allow the opportunity for other tournament organizers to run their own events on a large scale. Having an event roughly every 2 months is just so boring. We're past the stage of pros streaming scrims, I think, so there's not going to be that much to watch. Every 2 months you get a big tournament. What I love about CSGO is that every weekend there's some sort of lower tier tournament on, and every month you get a pretty big one to watch. Activision seems to be trying to revitalize Call of Duty in this way, but if you're not giving us any COD to watch, then just like Black Ops 3, it's going to be a non-memorable season. So out of all the changes, 5v5 and the lack of spectator events are definitely my biggest gripes. Now we have a very interesting blog from Treyarch. The audience for competitive play in the CWL will grow by bridging the gap between pubs and pros, making the game that is watched on main stage as close as possible to the game that's being played at home on the couch. So once again, they're being very clear that we're going to try not to ban as much as possible and keep as much as possible in the game, which almost confirms to me that specialists are going to be allowed and a lot of the other features as well. The core gameplay of public matches and objective-based modes will be played 5v5, so as a CWL, the spectator experience will be familiar to all players of the game. It makes me think that that there might be big shifts in what game modes are going to be played this year. Hardpoint is like the best competitive mode we have, but barely any public match players play it. And a lot of them don't even understand what's going on. Familiar to all players makes me think we're going to have a drastic shift in what game modes are played this year, which I find very worrying. But the rest of this article is good. Introducing the World League Hub, in-game home for all things esports and competitive play. You can come to the World League Hub to play like the pros in the competitive playlist format, watch the streamed events and learn about the latest happening, which you really love to see. Now the Pro Series is like League Play, features official CWL rules, and they also have weekend events to win in-game prizes and recognition, which is truly great stuff. Now League Play, you get assigned to a ladder after your first game. Players can compete in team ladders or as a solo competitor. It doesn't mean you can only compete as an individual or as a 4. It's going to be like how it was in Black Ops 2, where if you go in as a team of 2 or a team of 3, you rank up and down in the solo ladder. If you go as a team of 4, then you compete in the team ladder. So look, I'm not impressed with this announcement. I'm disappointed it's gone 5v5 and at the lack of spectator events. I like what Treyarch is doing in theory, trying to combine casual and competitive play, but I don't think it's going to work as easily as they think it is. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe for future Rostermania Rumours episodes and updates on all things Call of Duty for this season. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.